All right, ETM Hotep, welcome to the Seshu Mani Medew Netcher YouTube channel. I'll be running point. This is your brother Wujau Minib Idimaat, and today is our Freestyle Friday. Freestyle Friday, we've just started back up. This is probably our third week on our, I guess, second season, if you want to call it that. We had to take a break. So now we have reestablished our Freestyle Fridays. And so Freestyle Fridays is basically what the title means, that we take ancient Egyptian inscriptions, whether it's recommended by people in our Facebook group, those that we find online, and whatnot, and then we go through it and transliterate and translate it without the help of any sign list or dictionaries. So that's why we refer to it as Freestyle Fridays. And so today we have a picture, and we've been lately we've been trying to stay within a certain genre of text or inscriptions. So we've been doing the offering formulas as found on false doors or on offering stelae of various different people in ancient Kemet. So tonight we're going to briefly go over a few lines in another one. But before we start, I would like to open the mic and have other members of the Seshu Mani Medew Netcher just greet everyone, and then we can move forward.
Hotep, Reni Imiket. My name is Imiket, and welcome to a Freestyle Friday. Hotep.
Hotep. Rennie, Antoine Germain, aka Hush Your Mouth. Looking forward to the activities tonight and looking forward to getting back in with the crew. ETM Hotep.
ETM Hotep, welcome in peace, everybody. It's your brother June. Just want to say thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the show and leave with satisfaction. Hotep.
All right. So, and other members will come in and introduce as they come in. So, we're going to jump in. Well, before that, we will do our customary recitation of the offering formula. And we're going to pass the mic over to Sonet Emiket Akul Kinshai Akinyi to bless us with the offering formula.
All right, Dua. So this is the offering formula that we customarily do, and hopefully by now most of you have kind of memorized it. But if you haven't, you can recite along with me. And what you're looking at in your screen will be the offering formula. On the top part, we have the Sesh. On the middle part, we have the transliteration, which is what I'm going to be reading. And then at the bottom, we have the translation. And so this one is done on behalf of the ancestors, which is known as Aku. But you can always insert the name of an ancestor that you would like to include in the offering formula. So I'll just go ahead and recite it. Hotep Dinesu, Wasir Nebjadu, Netcher Neb Abju, DF Beret Keru, T Henket Ka Aped Ches Menchet, Ket Nebet Neferet, Wabet Anket Netcher Im, In Kani Imahu Aku Ma Keru. And what he says is, an offering the king gives Osiris, Lord of Jadu, great God, Lord of Abydos, so that he may give verbal offerings in beer, bread, ox, fowl, alabaster, and linen, everything good and pure on which a god lives, for the car of the revered ones, the ancestors, justified.
All right, Ikea and Dua. All right, so that's the opening, and we encourage everyone to memorize it. As Sonet Emiket said, the last line that you see, Inkani Imaku Aku Makeru, the word Aku is a generic word that's used for ancestors. and you can replace that with a person, a blood relative who's your immediate ancestor, a deceased person, and you can include that in there if you so choose. All right, so this is a good one to remember. There's various different offering formulas. There's a lot of offering formulas that are found. They are all contain 4 main elements, but they differ in the content. This is a good one. This is a not too long and not too short, and it has a little cadence to it that you will make it easy for you to memorize. All right, so that's our suggestion. Okay, so before we go into our picture, I do want to say that when we do these Freestyle Fridays and our Divine Words Wednesdays, they're not meant to be an exhaustive teaching or lecture or lesson. We do have a class that I encourage everyone to take who is curious about ancient Kemet beyond the romanticism and the commercialization that we've seen for decades about Kemet. Anyone who's more interested beyond that, I always recommend learn the language, because it's through the language that you'll be able to allow the ancestors, the ancient Egyptians or the Remech themselves, to speak on their own behalf. Because we have a lot of misinformation about Kemet floating around. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's a lot of it. And it's unfortunate because it steers us down the wrong path from the way that we should view ancient Kemet and actually use ancient Kemet as a very valuable resource. Similar to how European communities, for the longest time, they look at Greece as their classical civilization that they draw upon. So you have the Greek philosophers, the Greek mathematicians, all these Greek individuals that European communities lean on and hold up high, and they take their lessons and they expound on it or they utilize it. Well, likewise, we have Kemet, and we should not be apologetic about holding Kemet up high to a high level of esteem. But there's a cutoff. We don't actually utilize it. We just talk about Kemet a lot. People talk about it because it's a mysterious civilization. You know, it's surrounded with mystery. You know, even physically, Kemet is buried in the sand. So it's a lot of things that are just unseen, undiscovered, left, have yet to be rediscovered, etc., etc. So learning the language will put us back in sync with making sure that we utilize our history as a rich and valuable resource to move forward in the future. All right, so I encourage people to definitely learn the language. We have a course available on sableuniversity.com, and you can enroll in a course at any time. You actually can learn at your own pace. The only requirement is that you have an interest and that you have to purchase the textbook that complements the course. You can learn on your own at your own pace, and you'll have access to a teacher once or twice a week to get all your questions answered, any kind of commentary available, or just camaraderie among other students who are also learning the language. And I will show the website once we are finished. But I want to make that clear that our Freestyle Fridays are not meant to be anything exhaustive, as if we're teaching a course. These are fun exercises that we do and we share with everyone else and encourage everyone else to participate in. All right. So now with that said, let's get into our image for today, which is this image here. Let me see if I can zoom out so that you can see the full image first, and then I'll zoom back in so that we can see the glyphs. Okay, so I believe you can see the full image. And this is a false door. And until we read it, we won't know who's involved with it. But what we can tell by first glance is that this is a false door. All right, you see the opening in the very middle. Put my cursor there. In the middle, this niche opening. That would be the false door. and you see the drapery that is rolled up above it. All right, so these false doors, you know, if you are in the business of practicing transliterations and translations, in the past we've always recommended for people to stick to one genre at a time. That way you can get used to patterns and vocabulary that are very similar throughout the different artifacts that you're going to be dealing with. So false doors, all of the false doors will have a very similar wording to it, or words or vocabulary in there, and then the way that it's arranged. Okay. Likewise with the offering formulas on offering tables and just offering stelae, same thing. So if you pick your genre of artifacts that you're going to deal with, try to stick to that for a while so you can really get it, become proficient at it. Then you can move on to another one. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so let's I'll zoom in, zoom back in, and I will zoom in on the top portion as close as I can get it to where it's nice and clear. Should be. Let me know if it's clear. Can you all see it?
It's clear.
Okay, good. All right, so again, for those who have just tuned in, ETM Hotep, welcome, and I welcome you in peace, and hopefully that we can serve up a nice meal for you on our Freestyle Friday, so you can leave, as June say, leave satisfied as well. So this is our picture for today, and we'll try to monitor the chat a bit to see who's chiming in and everything, because we encourage interaction. You know, also join our Facebook group if you haven't already done so. Join our Facebook group, Sesh mdw-ntr. Join our Facebook group and keep up the conversations and things there. Okay, so there is a methodology for this, transliterations and translations. All right, we refer to it as Tep Hesep, of translation Tep Hesep, which is the translation correct method. And there's 4 steps within the method, and maybe somebody else on the panel can just name those or give a summary of those 4 steps before we actually begin.
I can go real quickly. The first step is to first recognize the direction. If you're reading left to right or right to left, or if you're going to be reading horizontal, or if you're going to be reading vertical. So we can look at this and see this is horizontal, and we look at particular glyphs to determine the direction you want to speak into the glyphs. That way, based on the way the different structures or different glyphs are facing, would kind of tell us which way to read. And so we look at birds or snakes or what have you for the first step to determine direction. Second step, we identify glyphs. We go through and identify which glyphs we recognize as far as monoliterals, biliterals, or what have you. And then from there, we're able to, based on what we know from identifying the glyphs, we can section off particular words or phrases that we may be able to identify. That leads us into our third step, where we come up with a transliteration, which is most of the time, or not most of the time, that 100% of the time you want to try to make sure that is exact, your transliteration, and you can compare that with your peers. And then from your transliteration, your third step, where you have identified particular words and phrases, you then take on step 4, which may require some grammar aspects, in which you take your transliteration and turn it into a translation that makes sense based on the context of the information in the stela or papyrus or wall or false door that you are translating. So those are steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if I left out anything, please feel free to add to it.
All right, Iked, excellent. All right, so no, I don't have anything to add to that. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Nope.
Nah, it's good.
Okay. All right. So let us begin. So step 1, identify the direction that the glyphs are to be read. And for this, I'm going to zoom back out so we can identify directions if there are more than one direction. So I'm zoomed out. So let's identify the directions that these inscriptions are to be, or these glyphs should be read. So I will kind of open it up if anybody wants to explain, and I'll follow with my cursor. Just let me know where you are.
All right, I'm looking. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Antoine.
No, you got it, man.
I was gonna say, the top part, the top row is gonna be read from right to left. I see at least 2 horizontal rows. Yep. Might even be a third one. There's one with a different color under the top row, but it's small when you zoomed out. But these are read from right to left. We can tell by the signs, mostly the animals. We see quail chicks pointing to the right. So you always want to read into the glyphs.
Okay. Any other directions? How about the glyphs down here?
Yeah, on the bottom we have columns. And I think these are they may start in the middle. So this right side will be read left to right, and then the left columns are read right to left.
Okay.
You know, just always reading into the glyphs.
All right.
And those rows, the rows and the columns won't necessarily mean the end of a sentence or phrase. So we always pay attention to that too.
Okay. All right, good. Yes. And sometimes there's some confusion about the directions to read. When we say 4 directions, what it really comes down to is 2 directions. 2 different directions, but then I guess you got a change of direction and orientation of the glyphs itself. So the glyphs are arranged in rows or columns, but you may be able to read them from right to left or left to right, and it depends on the way that the glyphs are facing. So rows and columns are counting as 2 directions, and then whether it's right to left or left to right counts as 2 other directions. So this is why some people will say 4 directions, but if you want to simplify it, it's really 2 directions. Just think of it, you're either going to read it in a row or a column, and then you make a determination whether you're going to read it from left to right or right to left. All right, and that makes it a lot easier to understand and remember that. Okay, so that would be step number 1. So I'm going to zoom back in, and we're going to come up top. And so step 2, as was already explained, is the identification step, where you identify every single glyph that you're looking at. And this process, or step 2, will take as fast or slow depending on your proficiency and what you've memorized. And obviously, the more that you work with inscriptions, the more you have opportunity to memorize, because you'll get used to it on a consistent basis. So this step would normally take the use of a sign list, but for Freestyle Friday, we don't do that. So based on memory, and we're going to exclude the monoliterals, which are glyphs that represent single consonants, hence 1 consonant for the word mono or uni. And we're going to skip those because everyone at this point should have those memorized. And by that, I mean everyone who's making an attempt to translate. By the time you want to go ahead and translate something, there are things that you should already have under your belt, and the memorization of the monoliterals is one of those things. So we're going to skip that and just maybe name 3 or 4 glyphs outside of the monoliterals. So anybody on the panel, just identify and let me know, and I'll just follow with my cursor.
The first glyph is once again right to the left on the top row is the Sesh plant, and in the sign list they'll be found under the vegetation category, which is labeled M, and the number would be 23, M23. Sedge plant. You also want to note down, of course we're doing everything off the freestyle, but note down the transliteration, which would, yeah. Oh, it can function in a few different ways. Yeah, you want to take note of the different functions too.
All right. How about another glyph? We got the first one. Any other
Okay.
glyphs?
The next glyph following that is a monoliteral. So hopefully everyone has that memorized or is familiar with it. Underneath that, we have what we call a hotep table, an offering table with a loaf on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's in the furniture. It's a R in the R category.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think it's like R8.
All right.
But that's transliterated capital H, lowercase t, lowercase p.
Okay.
Next, after that, we have a conical loaf. So that will be in the X category with the other breads.
Okay.
Transliteration for that, DI, or sometimes RDI.
All right. You sure that's not a
So
pyramid?
you're-
You sure that's not a pyramid with a door?
Or, now we got a lot of Native Americans. It might be a teepee.
Oh,
A
right,
teepee
right,
with the door open.
right, right. Exactly. All right. So, any more we can identify?
Yeah, you have the seated deity. And that's two glyphs right after the conical loaf that St. June mentioned.
All right.
And that in this case would be functioning as a determinative, but you want to note down all these functions as well. And then you have the basket on the top, and that usually will function. It will be biliteral, and we'll have the two consonants N, B. And then right after it, you have the read column. And that also is a biliteral, which has the two consonants, uppercase D and lowercase d. So I don't know if I should continue.
That's all right. Okay. All right. So we've demonstrated step 2.
I didn't hear any Gardner codes. No, I'm just messing.
Okay, Gardner codes. I think the basket will probably be V30.
Right.
And then the read column will I think you'll find it under, that might actually be in the R section. Probably R8 or 11, one of those, I'm not sure.
I'm just
but hey, June is the Gardner code expert. But yeah, so that at least knowing the classification, like June said, if it was under M, vegetation, it's good to just know under what category they belong. You don't have to memorize the numbers, but it helps you find them quickly. But just to know under which category, if it's under humans, under furniture, and all of that, will be very helpful.
All right. So I'm just gonna name a few more. We have the trachea windpipe, or for the word, or for the what's transliterated as a triliteral, representing 3 consonants, NFR. We have an open enclosure here, which is a biliteral representing 2 consonants, P and R. We have the boat oar here, which represents 3 consonants Q, which would be transliterated as X, R, W. Going down here, we have 2 crossing planks here. Looks like a cross, but it is not. It's 2 actually planks. It does look like a cross, but it has nothing to do with Christianity or the Christian cross. This is a biliteral, represents transliterated as I M. Let's see what else. We have a B, insect B over here. Represents a triliteral, transliterated as B-I-T, beat. And that's pretty much.
Right under from where you are, the B, and then there was the raised bread loaf and the seal, I think. But I think it would be good to mention the chisel, because that's a biliteral, and we know that it can function biliteral, which has 2 consonants, and in this case, the chisel could actually have the 2 consonants, uppercase A and B, or it could also have the biliteral with the 2 consonants M and R. And because it has those 2, sometimes we use what is known as phonetic complements to determine which of those 2 consonants it will be. So that's a good one to kind of mention, because sometimes, you know, there are some that actually can function as phonograms that have 2 different kinds of consonants as well.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point to bring out. Definitely. Okay, and
also,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Also, I like to look at because in a lot of these pictures or artifacts we work with, there'll be even bigger signs that we might not catch at the first glance. But is this whole thing a sign too? Like the whole thing is like a facade?
Oh, the entire picture? The entire...
Yeah.
What's a false door?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, okay.
It's a false door, and maybe we'll do an actual presentation on false doors. What were they used for? Why were they used? And so on. Maybe that will be something for our upcoming Divine Words Wednesday, where we'll slow things down and give, you know, more detailed information about different topics. So that'll be good for Wednesday. False doors. Okay, but that's a good point about the chisel. And all right, so now just real quick, just to clarify, what we have to always know and understand is that unlike English, these particular characters, and see in English, what we would call our script, we don't normally will call our letters in English that we use for English, we don't call them symbols. And the reason why we don't usually refer to them as symbols, even though they are symbols, but we don't call them that, we'll call them characters or letters. And the reason why it should be obvious is because they don't resemble anything in our surroundings. So your mind is not really triggered towards calling it a symbol. So likewise with the different glyphs, they are symbols, but we can also say characters because they're characters within a writing system, you know, a script. And so it's important to understand that unlike English, where every character in the English language represents a single sound or single consonant, the glyphs have the possibilities of representing 1 consonant, which we refer to as monoliterals, 2 consonants, which is biliterals, 3 consonants, triliterals, and sometimes 4 or more, which would be quadriliterals. But usually above 3, we usually refer to those as multiliterals. All right. And even within that, some glyphs, not many at all, you could pretty much probably count them on your fingers, less than 10 glyphs out of the whole repertoire of glyphs, where a glyph may have more than one representation. So the one that Emicat pointed out is the chisel, which can represent two different sets of two consonants, MR for mer and AB for ab. All right. And to help make us make that determination while you're reading is that with biliterals and triliterals, they are usually accompanied by a monoliteral that only functions as a complement. It's not to be transliterated or pronounced, but it serves as a visual aid to let you know what set of consonants that the triliteral or biliteral represents. So for this chisel, usually you'll see an owl next to it or a mouth next to it if it's going to be mer, or you'll see a leg, which represents the consonant B, and we'll let you know that this represents ab. So I wanted to put that out there so that you all can be aware of that. So I'm going to go back up. And so that was step 1 and step 2. Now for Freestyle Fridays, we usually combine step 3 and 4 together. Normally you would do them separate, but we combine them together because we're not using a dictionary. So as we're parsing these glyphs into the words that they are, Freestyle Fridays, we tend to say what the word is and what it means at the same time. All right, so we kind of consolidate those 2 steps. And so that's where we are with this. So we're going to start with this first line and see how much we can get through before we conclude. And then we want to involve everyone in the chat. So I'm going to leave it in this position and give everyone in the chat a chance to, look over it. I think I need to pull it up a little bit more so you can see the 2 rows. 2 rows there. All right. So let's have at it. As a matter of fact, let's do this first. Anyone in the chat besides son Christopher Withers, besides him, we have son at Julanda, son Sekam Ra, Farouk, Juhudi Ma'at. He says he's watching from the car. All right, be safe now. Don't be distracted. Texting and driving. Yeah, but so yeah, give a chance to come up with any words that you see. So let's start with just words. Any words that you see in the top row or the bottom row that you see on the screen. Any words, full words. And if you do, just type it out. And I'll give a chance for that to happen. And while we're waiting, I'll just say, speak on a few things that I like to mention as many times as I can. And that is that when we're dealing with the ancient Egyptian language that we know as Rani Kemet, or its writing system that we know as Sesh Netcher, that this can't be microwaved. And the way that we learn it is different than how we would learn a secondary language that is spoken today. So when you're in school and you learn French or Spanish or German or Italian, etc., or African languages like Twi, Kiswahili, etc., you learn them differently than how you would learn ancient Egyptian or Rani Kemet. And the reason why should be obvious, but in case it's not, the reason why is because Rani Kemet is classified as a dead language, which means that there's no official speech community that speaks it. So the approach to learning it is by way of its documentation or literature. So the primary connection we have with the language is by reading it. Whereas living languages that are spoken on, across a large community of people, we can engage the language based on what we hear. And so we can speak it directly or have it spoken to us directly. And so our learning approach is different. And so those are 2 different things. Now, so because of this, we learn Rani Kemet by way of reading it. And so to access Rodney Kemet, we have to do it by way of Sesh, Medew, Netcher, which is the writing system. Without the writing system, if there were no glyphs that survived, if there was no writing that survived to this day, we would not know as what we know about the language to this very day. So think about that. What we know about Rodney Kemet comes by way of the writing. And so Spanish, we don't have to learn Spanish through its writing. We have Spanish speakers today that can teach us and speak to us. But with Rodney Kemet, it's different. So that's a very important point to understand. And I don't see any other comments.
Bro, I was reading that. I read a good quote in a book. It said, much of what we know about Egypt is because of her scribes. And that's another motivation factor of me to keep up with my studies.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So we just have to bear this in mind. And it's very important to understand that, because what has happened, what I've seen and witnessed, is that we have people who are trying to teach the language, but they themselves have not learned it, and they don't understand it. And so they make attempts to teach it and want it to be taught to them the same way one would learn Spanish or French. And you cannot do that. And it's for obvious reasons that I mentioned, and more that I didn't mention. Okay, so we have to be very clear on that. So there's no shortcuts. And basically it comes down to, when, learning anything about Kemet and a lot of these different scientific disciplines, there's no shortcuts. And we have to really just stop expecting shortcuts. We have to stop expecting things to be fast or us to learn within 2 weeks. It's bad enough that everything around us has been sped up. We have email, we have fast food restaurants, we have microwave meals now. Everything is fast. But the learning process we can't compromise speed for the quality and the rigor that has to be there when we're learning. So we have to make this clear, and please pass that along. When you see it happening, speak up. All right. So I wanted to give people a chance who are watching to kind of chime in on this, and I don't see any comments. I don't know if my screen is has frozen or slow. I see Sonette Julanda says the first word Hotep question. She says sedge plant, bread on mat, raised bread loaf. Yes, not the first word though. Well, actually, you are correct. I misspoke. The first word is actually Hotep. But what we need to clarify is that the first word that you see is not Hotep, but the first word that's in that phrase would be Hotep. And so what we have going on here is what's called honorific transposition. So we have the sedge plant, which June pointed out, that represents the word for king or the word for royal. And the word for king and the word for deity and the names of deities themselves are those things that are usually transposed in the front of phrases in honor. And we refer to that as honorific transposition. And so this is the case of that. So the first word is Hotep, but we're putting the word Nesut in front in terms of the writing system. All right, so Hotep di Nasut would be that first phrase. So yes, so Sonette Jolanda, that's correct. All right, so let's kind of go through it. So anybody on the panel, so let's just open it up and let's see what words we could parse out of this and give the meaning of the particular word, and then we'll try to go over and then we'll try to smooth it out and give a translation, you know, more smooth translation. So I'll just open the mic up. Anybody could chime in.
The first four glyphs, sometimes we refer to it as a formula because we see it so often. It's used in a lot of text. We have the Sesh plant, raised bread loaf, the table with the loaf, and then the conical loaf. This phrase, as you said, has an honorific transposition in it. So it's Hotep D Nasut. The transliteration is capital H T P D I N W S T. Hotep D Nasut, offering the king gives.
Okay. So we have, let me just put a box around it so everyone can identify on site. All right. But go ahead. You were going to say something else?
I was just going to move on to the next set of glyphs. The next three symbols, another combination of glyphs that we see often. We have the Gardner code D4 for the I. We have the throne underneath that and the seated deity behind that. Common transliteration for this, WSIR, Wasir.
All right. Okay.
Next set of glyphs, I think it's 5. The next 5 glyphs will be joined together. We have the bread, what's that? The basket. Next will be the pillar. We have the hand, the Newt symbol for determinative, and then I think the quail chick at the end will end that one word as Jedu, location.
Okay. Good. Anything else?
I got a quick question.
Okay.
Is it mdw?
Yep, that's what it seems. It looks like.
Yes. That's
So
2
it's gonna be
words.
2 words.
Yes.
Yep,
All right. Excellent.
you're right.
Yep. Those are 2 words there. So it's actually a single glyph and then the 4 glyphs. All right. Okay. How about anything else in the same row?
Next after that, after Jadu would be the next 3 glyphs or next 4 glyphs, where it's like a per on top, but it's also an abbreviation, and it's abbreviation for the word Nket, capital HN, HNQT. That's going to be beer, bread and beer.
Okay. All right.
And next, I'm not sure. I see a printed at the biliteral N, but I'm not sure what that sign is. I'm not sure if that's a cat or what.
Okay.
That would be, I think the top part is included with the other 1, 2, 3, 4 glyphs that you mentioned. So that's a different type of bread, the glyph on the top.
Yeah, it's like means provisions, right?
Right. So,
I know it's like a QA ending.
so it will be part of the Peret Heru.
Okay.
Yeah, that one is a continuation of the other glyphs before that precedes it.
Okay. Okay, so let me just add in here for this portion. The previous glyphs here that Son Antoine mentioned, which is the enclosure, the boat oar in the middle. We have a raised bread on the right, and we have a jar of beer on the left. And T Henket. So it's Pret Cheru T Henket. Now together, this is a voice offering or invocation of bread and beer in this alone. But often you'll also find that you'll see after this, you'll also see T and Henket written again, even though you see it bunched together. That's because this invocation offering of bread and beer, because bread and beer was such a normal everyday staple of the Remish diet, that it became known in terms of offering and food and things. So you'll see it all together here, and it'll be abbreviated with just this, and sometimes you'll see it in longer offering formulas where you'll see it all spelled out. You'll see it twice. And then this glyph here at the top is the word Jaffa, which is a summary of provisions. It means, you know, provisions. So that one glyph can summarize all of the different foods that would normally be listed one after the other. You know, how you have bird, fowl, alabaster, you know, linen, and ointments and incense and all these other kinds of things listed there. That one glyph right there that has a rectangle around it now is Jaffa, which is provisions. So because of space, you know, everything is summarized here instead of being listed out in detail. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understands that. Okay, and this water ripple stands on its own. It's like serves as like a dative for the word for, F-O-R, for. And then we have this here, this set here. So what's anybody? You give us some insight on that one.
Are you questioning the the glyphs in the box?
Yeah, the ones in the box. Yes.
I think.
Okay, you just said it. What does it mean?
Revered, renovate, revered,
Venerated, revered. You're about to say renovated?
Yeah, I was trying to think of the other way to say it. I just paused.
Venerated.
Yeah.
Ancestors.
Honored.
Okay, yeah. He about to say the renovated person, the renovated one. Somebody who's been renovated. They done got new shoes, new outfit, and everything. Renovated.
Upgraded.
Yeah. All right, so that's good. That's good.
Can you spell it out for me?
Spell it out. Oh, the transliteration. It would be I, M, capital A, and then we have the X, and then the W. Imaku. The reed leaf, which you normally would see, is omitted. And that's another thing about this writing system. Based on familiarity with it, you'll see that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the scribes would abbreviate things. Same way that we do in English. We abbreviate doctor. We don't spell doctor out all the time. We don't spell street out all the time. We have apostrophes, you know, words that are what do you call them, compound words that, you know, that we subtract some of the letters and put apostrophe there, like the word don't instead of do not, instead of will not, won't, and so on. So you have that going on in this writing system as well. So then we have the last one, the last group, who can
That'll probably be a name. That's why it always gets a little iffy.
Okay, good.
Nefer
you, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
Walks. What is it? What comes in beauty, or walks in beauty, or something?
Sounds like it.
Okay. Now, but that's important to understand. First of all, we all understand that names are difficult to make out. the fact that you know it's a name goes a long way, and that's really all you would need to know, is that it is a name. Trying to figure out the meaning of the name will be challenging. It's possible, but it provides more challenge. But the fact that you know it's a name, that is enough. That you know it's an identity of someone. All right, their name. And how we know that's a name is because of the familiarity with this formula. Imaku would usually follow a person's name, the venerated one, and then the person's name. All right. So let us give a smooth translation of this. Now that we've kind of broken up each word, now let's just give a smooth translation of this. So anybody want to take a crack at it? Give us a smooth translation.
Yeah, so that would be an offering the king gives Osiris, Lord of to-do, a voice offering for the venerated, or for the revered one, Nefer-Ew.
Okay, excellent. Only thing I would add is that it's a voice offering of provisions for. We have provisions. All right. So good enough. I just want to turn to the chat. I'm sure others figured that out. Let's see. Where are we? Going down. Farouk said, I'm mute. I'm just learning. Yeah, don't be afraid to you know, take a stab at it. You know, we're all learning here. You know, we pride ourselves in creating an environment. Now, this is the thing. You know, if you join our Facebook group, everyone who's watching should already be a member of our Facebook group. Our Facebook group is Sesh, Seshu Ma'ani Medew Netcher as well. And we create an environment that's a learning environment. We keep it focused. You know, we don't like too many distractions and things like that. We keep it focused, but we open it for everybody to learn. You can share and learn and find out things. And we are pretty much meticulous and scientific with everything as well. So we want to be detailed and precise as possible. And so sometimes we'll share things and we'll fine tune everything. And everybody is what do you call it? No one, put it this way, no one is exempt from being corrected, or we'll tweak a few things here and there just to have, you know, to reach perfection. You know, our goal is to reach perfection and precision. All right. So feel free to chime in whenever you want, and don't be afraid to make a mistake. That's one thing that we have to get over. You know, it's okay to make mistakes. The whole point of making mistakes, if you make them, is to learn from them. You know, it's really just that simple. We don't have to be scared to the point where I don't want to make a mistake, therefore I'm gonna not do anything or anything. So, you know, just all keep all that in mind. All right. So I see Sonette Jolanda says, oh no, sorry, son David ask Nefer Inu, and okay, Sonette Emiket corrected and said Nefer-Ew. Okay. And then he has a question for you, Sonette Emiket, and while you answer that in the chat, we're gonna go on to the bottom inscription. Sorry, not the bottom, but this row here. I'm scooting it up so we can see it in the middle of the screen. All right, so now let's do step 3 and 4 with this one. So June, I guess you can start us off since you started off with the top one, or anyone.
Okay, we're going on the same. Okay, the big row.
Right, this row here. Yep.
Okay, we see the same
Can
four.
Can I add something real quick before you start, June?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to add that we noticed a pattern. So just like the top one had a pattern, we should be able to identify, or we can pretty come close to identifying the same pattern as far as the first one. Maybe I guess sometimes we call it plug and chug. So if you know certain places or exactly the same as the one above, you should be able to plug those in automatically.
Okay, that's a good point. And so by patterns, the offering formula has a certain elements, 4 elements, and it's discussed in the textbook, in the beginner's textbook. But just to quickly go over it, the 4 elements are: number 1, the opening. We have the opening phrase, which is Hotep di Nasu itself. That's what starts it off. And we should be familiar with the meaning of it, which is an offering in which the king gives. And there's some questions about that. Maybe we could discuss that afterwards briefly, but we may do a whole show on it. But I'll bring it up again once we've done a few lines. But that's the opening phrase. And then we have, along with that, we have the next portion would be the deity or deities that are involved with the offering. And so, and their epithets. So you'll usually see a deity's name or more than one deity and their epithets that are there. That's the second element that's part of the offering formula, the entire offering. The third element would be the actual content of the offerings itself. And it could be from food items to a nice coffin, a nice burial, all these kinds of things that are mentioned. Okay, that's where you get the long list of different things. Okay, that would be the third element. And then the fourth and final element would be the recipient of, or the beneficiary of the offering formula itself, the offering, which would be the person. So the person's name, maybe titles that they've held, and then the fact that they are usually justified, which is the phrase ma kheru, one who is justified. All right. And so, son Antoine, if you understand what he's mentioning is, if we understand these formulas or these elements, then we could plug in. So if you've done the first line, then you could look at the second line and pretty much see how it's pretty much the same. It's similar. And then swap out, plug in. So, okay, so June, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need it?
Say that we lose June. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. So anyone can go.
Okay. Where did June leave off?
You can start at the beginning of that row.
Okay. So is it just the recognizing words, or?
We're doing this row like we did the first row, which is we're combining steps 3 and 4 together.
Okay. So you have also from the very beginning you have Hotep Dinesu, which will be the first 1, 2, 3, 4 glyphs.
Okay.
And then you have that's an offering the king gives, and then we get to know the deity, which will be Inpu, and that would be the next glyph there, which would be that one that you have. And then right after that we have the Inpu's epithet, which will be Juf Imi Wet, and those are those ones that you have encircled there, which will be, we have Tep Juf, which will be the first 1, 2, 3, 4 glyphs, so which is upon his mountain. And then the next correct, and then the rest of the glyphs will be Imi, or that will be Im, and then Wat, which would be the quill cheek all the way to the top of the head, angled over there. Yes, so Imi Wat. So will be, so that would be Hotep Dinesu, Inpu, Tep Juf, Imi Wat. So an offering the king gives Inpu upon his mountain, and I think it's the the embalmed one. He who is embalmed. That would be the translation. And I don't know if somebody else want to take the rest.
Yeah, I'll just finish up the rest. Is stated, it's going to be exactly the same as up above. So we have Hinket with the next 4 glyphs: the per, the or, the jar, and the bread loaf. T Hinket, and then as stated, the bread loaf again, or the one that symbolizes the provision. And then after the provision will be the water ripple for in, and then the name again, the person's name, Nefer U. So it looks like if we look at both the rows, the thing that changed would be the deity and the epithet or location of the deity. But other than that, the Hotep in the suit and the vocal offering and the provisions and the person who they're for stayed the same.
Okay, say the last part again. You were breaking up. Just say the last part again.
Oh, I said that the looks like the provisions stayed the same. I'll say everything stayed the same except for the Netcher and the location or the epithet. But other than that, the provisions, Tihinket, that stayed the same. Except for on the top one, they spelled it out twice. The bottom one, they spelled it out once. But they did include that bread loaf, it looks like, for provisions, and the water ripple for in. And then it's the name again, Nefer U, the person's name.
Okay. Good enough. All right. So let's see. All right. So altogether, we have Hotep di Nasu, input. Let me say input. Inpu, Tep Ju F, Imiwet, Peret Kheru, Tihenket or Jafar, in Nefer U. All right, so they're the same as we all pointed out. And now this one in particular is abbreviated. Like I said, this word Jafar is the word for a summary of provisions. But we can see where these glyphs that are in a different color here and are smaller, they actually list out the provisions, more of the provisions. Okay, so we won't read all of it, but these would be the provisions, and we have the name again here as well. Imaku, we see it again. Let me see if I can blow it up. We see Imaku Nefer U at the end of this one as well. But we have Web or Webet. We have Ka, Hinket. You know, it tells you the numbers. You see this Ka, 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 Ka. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 instances of the same word Ka. And that means it's a word for a number, like 1,000. But it's not taken literally as 1,000. It just means a lot, like an abundance. It's another way of saying abundance. Give an abundant amount of this, an abundant amount of this, an abundant amount of that. You know, just think of it in abundance. All right. So just like how we would say a lot. And when we say a lot, we think of the word a lot as one word, but a lot is really, you know, 2 words, a lot. And what is a lot? A lot is a bundle of something. You know, we say a lot. We say it as one word. All right, so that's just interesting that we still, you know, kind of have that same concept today. All right, so just wanted to.
We do say 1,000 too. Some people say 1,000,000. I told you 1,000 times. I told you 1,000,000 times this and that. You know.
Yeah, like I told you 1,000 times not to do that. You know, it just means I told you a lot of times. You know, or many times.
Hyperbole.
Yeah.
Over-exaggeration.
Yes. Like, told you a million times. A gajillion, you know, kids be like, I gotta tell you a gajillion times. Ad infinitum. So yeah. All right. All right, so let's go down though. Let's deal with, maybe we could deal with a column or two. So I will let's see if I could get it right there in the shot. With any comments on inside of the chat. Just want to make sure we're not neglecting any comments. Let's see. I'm that kid in the back of the classroom. Okay, that's Farouk. Well, see, if I was a teacher in that classroom, yeah, we had to swap you out. You'll come in the next day and your desk with your name on it will be right in the front. Not only in the front, but you'll be facing the other students. So yeah. But let's see. I don't really see any questions here. All right. So is the whole thing in it? Yeah.
Can we look at who was in the place of embalming real quick before we go down?
Okay. Let me see if I can scroll back here. To my here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those dots there. Because I've seen it before, but it threw me off with those dots.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one before, that's the mountains or an Necropolis.
Yeah, that's the two mounds. You got the three triple hills and double hills. Double hills is the word Jew. Triple hills is the word chas, where we get the hika chasut or chaset for triple hills. And Jew is this particular word for high hill or mountain or mound. And so it is he who is upon or on top of his mound. And that's actually what you see. Enpu, the jackal or dog, is actually on top of a mound. And then we have Imi, which is he who is within or inside. And then you have Wet, which is bandages. It's bandages or mummification bandages and stuff. So it's he who is within the mummification chamber or the funerary chamber.
Dua.
All right, and that's a popular epithet of Enpu. Yep. So you'll see him inside of Raunu Niu Peret Imheru, some of the vignettes where you'll see Enpu standing over a mummy. Okay, so I'm going to scroll back, see if I can fit all this into the shot and big at the same time. So let's see what we can identify in a couple of these columns here. So let's start with, we can start with this column here. The left, first column from the middle, but on the left. We can start there.
Okay, I could see some words. Most of them I am not sure what they mean, but I could see the words that probably will just call them out.
Yes, to you.
So from the top, see the word Jed.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the first two glyphs. And then the next two glyphs it will be ew.
Okay.
I need to look at it from YouTube because it's a little bit blurry over there. So, and then I see the next two glyphs after that will be ready, will be the mouth, and then the hand with the conical loaf on it.
Okay.
And then have the water ripple, which will be and probably a preposition. And the next three glyphs might be a word as well. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know that what it is. Then we have the water ripple, which is another preposition, I would assume. And then after that, I would say the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next 5 glyphs will be a word. It will probably read kir. And I'm thinking it might be a verb because it has the determinative there with the seated man, with the hand to the mouth. So that should be a word.
Okay.
And then the next 4 glyphs might be a word as well, which would be hebesu.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't know what it means, but it would that would be the transliteration.
Okay. All right, so let's deal with this column. So we have Jed. So what is it? So go over the ones that you know the meaning for again.
Okay, so the one on the top will be Jed, which will be something to do with say.
Okay.
Or state. Then you have you, which is what's it called, a participle?
Nin.
Oh.
A particle.
It's gonna be like this, matter of fact.
Yeah,
To say matter of fact.
Precisely, dua. And then the ready, which would be give, which would be the next 2 glyphs.
All right.
And then 2 could be the water ripple. And that's that.
All right, so let's go over it. So we have Jed. You mentioned that it means to say or saying. Now we have what we've been talking about tonight is the offering formula. And the reason why we call these formulas is because they're very prolific in the literature of ancient Kemet. And they're standard, like a standardized way of saying things. But we just refer to it as a formula. And so we have the utterance formula, saying formulas, offering formulas, etc. So we have 2 varieties of the saying formula. And both of them begin with the word Jed. And we'll say Jed Medew is usually the formula. And so Jed Medew is word spoken, or Jed Medew-ntr, word spoken by. And depending on which variety that's there is what you would have as your expectations. So if it's Jed Medew-ntr, then you can understand or know that a name is going to follow. If it's just Jed Medew or just Jed, then know that whatever is being said is just going to go right into what is being said, and then a name or something is going to come after. So that's the difference. And so we have a saying formula here. So Jed, which is saying or words spoken, and then what was actually spoken. So we have you, and then ready. Now this water ripple here is not the preposition. It's not the preposition. It is the past tense of the verb ready, give. So it's
right. Okay, yeah.
And we're used to seeing that in these offering formulas where we have D in for given, but this, instead of D in, it's ready in. So D and ready are the same word. D is the shorter form of ready. It's just the R that's missing a lot of times when we say D. D and E in ek. So this is ready in E. Now, usually in these formulas, the E, the first person pronoun, which in this case would be ready in E, that E is omitted. And that's normal. And it's something that you would become accustomed to and just realize that that's what the scribes did. It's ready in E. I have given. Okay, so I have given, and then what was given? So we have T, henket, which is a jar, so bread and beer. And then we have henker, capital HNQR, W, henkeru, and a man with his hand to his mouth or to his face, which is altogether
is that hunger?
Yes, because I was going to say the word sounds like what it actually means in English. Henker, hunger. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then we have habesu, as you said. So habesu, I believe habes is the word for clothes. Now, see, you know, I'm going from memory, meaning clothes, but obviously on Freestyle Friday we would not end here. We would definitely check our work. We would double check and verify what we're doing, what we're saying. So if you're watching the video and we're saying what these words mean, keep in mind we're not using any books or anything right now. So that so we've kind of vulnerable for to be wrong in some of these instances. So if we are, then by all means point that out and just realize we're not using any books. But we also double check ourselves as well, and we'll come back. And usually in the comment section of these videos, if we did make a mistake in our freestyling, we would comment under the video and make that correction. So on our previous videos, you know, just look out in the comment sections and things like that if we made any mistakes. All right.
Okay, so yes, and David says garments, clothing for habitu.
Yes.
So you're correct.
Dua.
Yes, Dua.
All right, so that is good. So we can say that we transliterated that and translated. So I think that's, you know, enough for now. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody in the comments. Any comments that any questions in the comments or anything worth repeating that we should address? I mean.
So that Hekir was hunger or hungry man?
Hungry.
Hunger. Okay, hunger.
Well, it has to do with hunger. You know, like I said, hunger. You're not a hungry man or anything. The determinative is for the word hunger. I know the man with the mouth to his hand to his mouth is determinative for the word hunger.
Yeah, I figured it should be like a verb. So it must be hunger with a determinative.
Yeah, the verb ready. So gave those items for the hunger.
Or the hungry.
The hungry. All
right, so I don't see any questions. Let's see. Son David says to you, A1 would be hungry man. Okay. All right. So we're going to end here. And again, I invite everyone who's watching to make sure you join our Facebook group, and we continue the conversations like this. You know, we'll probably post this picture, and any questions about this picture or this artifact, we will, you know, kind of be able to go further on. Obviously, YouTube on our videos, we don't want them too long. You know, our attention span is short. So we invite everyone to join. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. I see 7 thumbs up. We have 16 people watching right now and only 7 thumbs up. So thumb up the video or thumb it down. And if you do thumb it down, leave a comment why. All right. We're not impartial. You know, if you don't like the video, be honest. You don't like it. You don't like what we're doing, say so. But at least tell us why. Don't just say so and walk away. That's not very helpful. All right. And if you have any suggestions on artifacts, if you have an artifact or a picture of something, make sure you let us know. Post it in the group. And when you post it in the Facebook group, just put in there somewhere in your caption that, you know, proposed Freestyle Friday, you know, so we can start having a list of them that we can go over. And then sometimes if we get enough of them, we'll do some on Freestyle Friday on YouTube, but we may also do some on Facebook Live as well. Okay. In between the weeks. Yes.
Yeah, we had one. Probably we could take one last question. It was from Alda Hotep. So how will a sensible connection from hungry man connect to the last word close? Please read the column in whole.
Let me just make sure I'm clear. He said, how will a sensible connection from hunger man, okay, connect to the last word close? Please read the column. Oh, in whole. Okay, I see. Read the entire column. It's okay, let me go back, turn my cursor on. Where are we at? Okay, so we have Jed, which is saying, and then we have you, ready, and E, I gave, and then we have T and Ket, which is bread and beer. This ripple would be what Emiket, what you had figured this one was, but it would be this one. So ready and E would be the past tense, I gave, bread and beer, and then in, which is a dative for 4 or 2, and then hekeru, and that's the plural, so it'd be to the hungry, and then hesep, and then close. So obviously provisions are given to the hungry, and then close, and then if we would have kept going. Now remember what Son June said in the beginning of our video. He said that the column dividers and the row dividers do not represent punctuations. So in other words, just because the glyphs stop here doesn't mean that it's the end of a sentence or even the end of a word. So we would have to continue up here, and we will see the determinative for this hebesu.